What is up, Square Nation? Welcome back to No Counters, No Combos, and today we're going to be talking about future Gohan, specifically the deck that I'm going to be focusing on very heavily in the set 13 meta. I have many different versions of this deck that I've tested on Untap. But obviously I haven't been able to play with the cards, in person just yet because we just got out of our pre-release. And official release is actually this upcoming Friday. But I definitely will have my hands on the cards by the end of the week, so I can start, crunching out those games in real time. But I definitely put a lot of testing, a lot of theories, a lot of just playing as many cards as I possibly could to try to get to maybe not the best yet, because I have other versions of this deck that I'll probably showcase on the channel, maybe not with deck profiles, but maybe with some gameplay. I definitely haven't perfected this deck yet, but I feel like I've put myself in a position to play it to success. Now, granted, your success is going to come from, what everybody else is playing in your meta. Everybody's meta is going to be different. Everybody's local meta is different. Everybody's play styles are different. So it really depends on where you kind of gauge your area or your level of competition in your area to where you're going to slot this in. In the grand scheme of things, by no means is this a tier 1 deck. There are definitely some holes that the deck needs to be repaired in order for it to be, in that upper echelon of leaders. But I feel comfortable slotting this in. Definitely tier 2, maybe argumentatively a very close 1.5 if, certain things add up in your favor. So without further ado, let's get right into it. For those of you who don't know what the leader does, we have Sun Gohan on the front. He's a 10k attacker. Auto, when this card attacks, draw a card. And he has 2 awakening conditions. His first awakening condition is if one of your yellow battle cards with blocker is KO'd, you get to burst 3, draw 2, flip this card over, and then you take life until you're at 6. So if you're at 8, you go from 8 to 6, 7, 7 to 6, so on and so forth. So you could technically awaken with this guy turn 1 if you mulligan correctly and you see the right pieces, which is how we kind of built the deck, to be able to awaken as early as possible, but then be able to pivot into our Trunks chain. When he flips over, his other awakening condition is if he's at 4 or less, you untap 1, draw 1. So basic awakening for those aggro decks that are going to try to force you down early. You have an untap 1, draw 1, awaken. When he's awakened, Super Saiyan Gohan, Hope of the Resistance. He's a 15k attacker, auto, once per turn when this card attacks, draw a card. He also has an auto. When he attacks, you can choose one of your Trunks future battle cards, give it plus 5k and critical for the duration of the turn, which is very nice in combination with our boss monster, because you can mitigate damage and you could basically just only allow your opponent to take damage that's critical, so they're not gaining, any resources off of their life total, which is kind of a nifty way to play the deck if your pieces add up. And then he has another auto. When your opponent attacks, you can select one of your, I believe it specifies 3 cost or higher Trunks, and restand them and give them plus 6k for the turn. So your blocker Trunkses, you can restand and give them plus 6k for the turn, and that way you can have a defensive option after your leader gets attacked. Now, I just want to point out that the leader's ability is an auto off of attack declaration. So as soon as your opponent attacks, your auto goes into pending. So then you'd have to choose a valid target to restand, and then the counter and the block window come after that. So essentially what happens is if your Trunks is in rest mode on your opponent's turn and your opponent decides to attack into your leader, you can resolve your leader's auto by restanding the Trunks blocker, giving it the 6k, and then immediately following up with the block on that same attack. So it's just the way the wording is. Gohan's auto goes into pending on attack declaration. The attack doesn't have to resolve. It just has to be an attempt of a swing. And then his auto will trigger restanding your blocker. So it's a nice little defensive tool. It's also a nice way to dodge some battle cards swinging into your Trunkses if you're not ready to lose them or if you haven't gone up the full chain just yet. It's a nice way of mitigating some damage and being more defensive, which I think this deck does really well naturally. Yellow's just really good defensively right now, and the top end of this deck is really nice. So let's get right into the deck. First, we're going to go over Secret Identity Mass Saiyan. Yellow has always had a trouble with mass removal, so I feel like Secret Identity is just one of those cards that you have to main deck. You know, being able to overwhelm for 6 is not hard in this deck, and being able to clear your opponent's board very effectively is also going to help you kind of recover and then pivot to your later game. We're playing one Hidden Power E Supreme Kai, you know, for that sneaky double strike either on a leader or one of the litany of battle cards that we have in the deck. We're playing 4 Krillin Super Combos. Shout out to Joey Palladino from Crossworld TCG, the master of blue yellow. I talked to Joey a little bit before actually, you know, the set officially came out. We were bouncing ideas off of each other for this list. Joey's the king of blue yellow, so I'm not going to say anything against, you know, what he's building. Like, that's his thing. That's what he's been successful with, and I can definitely see the merits of playing this deck blue yellow. Me, on the other hand, I feel like it's more beneficial to play the deck mono yellow because you get access to a better super combo and because you don't have to worry about, you know, you're being finicky with your energy when you want to go and play your boss monster. That's just my opinion. But if you guys prefer the blue-yellow version, definitely go and check out his deck profile on his channel, Crossworld TCG. So we're playing 4 Krillin Super Combos. The good thing about this deck is if you can awaken early and you can stay at 6 or, you know, 5 or 6 life as early as possible, it gives you time to draw into your super combos before you get to 4 life. So before they're actually even valid, it gives you time to draw into them. And sometimes, you know, if you awaken turn 1 or turn 2 and you take that life from 8 to 6 to add cards to your hand, you're getting advantage that way, and you might not necessarily need to worry about, you know, taking damage here on until you get to 4. Once you get to 4, obviously you want to play super defensive, but your opponent is going to have to worry about your board as well as your leader, because if you can establish your Trunkses, then it's not going to be a fun time for them. I'm playing 2 of these Piccolos that we got from Vermilion Bloodlines. I really do like this card. I think this card is very, very slept on. It's a 3-drop 15k attacker. Its permanent is when it's your opponent's turn, you can reduce the cost of this card in your hand by 1. So he essentially becomes a 2-drop, and he's a counterplay. So tap 2, play this card, and then the card that your opponent's basically playing, if the card's cost is 4 or less, you play it with its skills negated for the turn. So the reason that's good is because it specifies the card being played 4 or less. It doesn't specify battle cards. So you can interact with unisons with this Piccolo. We've gone over this in one of my Tech Talk videos. There's not a lot of interaction with unisons right now, so being able to shut off your opponent's unison for a turn and get a free 15k, not a free 15k body, but get a 15k body on board to have offensively next turn is not a bad idea in my opinion. I'm only playing 2 because seldom does the situation happen where I actually want to play this guy. You know, if I really need to shut something off that's going to be big for my opponent, then I actually have my answer with Piccolo. Moving on, we're playing 4 of the new Super Saiyan Future Gohan blocker from set 13. Basically, he's just a 2-drop 10k blocker. So it 2 energy to commit to a blocker that you want to die is tough, but he kind of just gets the engine started if you don't open well. And by open well, I'll obviously get to that as we get later on in the deck profile, but you know, he allows you to be able to have that awaken turn 2 if you really need it. The good thing about him is that when he activates his blocker skill, he goes and grabs this 1-drop Trunks, as you can see on the screen here, the one holding Gohan after he lost his arm. So as soon as he activates blocker, he goes and gets this guy from the deck. The nice thing about the Trunks is if you have a future Gohan that leaves the field while this Trunks is on board, he allows you to grab a 3-drop from the deck and play it right on top. So essentially you're cheating your chain out a turn earlier. Normally you'd have to wait until turn 2 to evolve on the 1-drop, but this is allowing you to do it defensively so that when it's your turn, you restand and have all your energy to utilize offensively. It's just a nice little way of not cheating out, but having like a second starter, just giving you that nice little cherry on top. It's not the best card in the deck. It's just one of those things where if you don't see your main pieces by turn 1, turn 2, and you happen to have this guy, he's going to help you get the engine rolling. So that's why I really like him. The next card we're playing is a playset of the 8-drop SR from set 13. This card is a house. I mean, on paper, he's got every single keyword you can imagine except for critical, which ironically enough, the leader does give him. But he's a barrier, blocker, double strike, dual attack. He's amazing. He's 30k base. Being able to swing for double strike and dual attack right now is really good because it's going to help you clear boards. It's going to help you clear units. It's going to help you pressure your opponent. And the ability of your leader being able to give him plus 5k and critical for the turn is also really nice. Now, what I like about him is he has multiple ways of being played. So you can EX evolve him for 4 over a Trunks Future, or you can cheat him out with the next card we're going to talk about, which is the new 3-drop from set 13. This guy's a 20k barrier, blocker as well. And basically when he comes out, he EX evolves over a 1-drop Trunks for 1 yellow energy. But then he has a skill is if you have at least 4 energy, you can pay 2 yellow to play the 8-drop on top of this guy and restand him in active mode. So basically what he does is he'll swing for 20k, tap 2 yellow, play the boss monster on top, restand, then you have your 30k double strikes and dual attacks off of the 8-drop. The perfect turn would be to attack with your 20k Trunks, do a damage, EX evolve, attack with your leader, draw a card, give the new Trunks 5k and critical for the turn. So he's a 35 double crit dual attack on that swing. So it's essentially swinging for a potential of 6 damage in 1 turn if you can sequence it properly. The 3-drop Trunks is also really good because he can come out as early as turn 2 if you have a 1-drop Trunks out on the board for EX Evolve, and it just helps you get started. He's a 20k attacker, so that's nothing to laugh at, and if you can use him defensively as a blocker and you're already awakened, he does become a 26k blocker. So I really do like him. We've already talked about this 1-drop Trunks. He's essentially in here to get your pieces out of your deck, so that way when you're drawing into your power cards as opposed to drawing into your pieces, which is really nice because you're going to draw into your stuff like Nimbus and Time Magic and stuff that we're going to talk about as we get further into the list. But originally, in my first initial build that I tested with this deck, I just played the entire archetype, and I just kind of made changes here and there, tweaks to my playstyle, but also try to be as efficient as possible with my energy. We're playing 3 Flying Nimbus. I tossed this number around a lot. Like, it started at 2, then it just gradually improved to 4. I feel like 3 is the sweet spot. I feel like if you can resolve 2 Nimbus per game, you're going to be ahead. A lot of decks go wide right now. Obviously, you don't have to. You don't have an answer for Unisons that they're going to get over Nimbus no matter what. But I feel like having an option to kind of shut down your opponent a little bit and give you that extendability of your plays, which is what you want to do, naturally just get to that other turn. And sometimes, it's hard to do that when you don't have floodgates, especially good ones. Like yellow definitely doesn't have any good floodgates right now. Nimbus is an old card. It came out in set 3, so I still like it. I think it's still a pretty important yellow card to include in your list defensively if you have a strategy that you want to play out and be more of a mid-range type late game. I think that's going to help you get there. We're playing 4 Time Magic. Time Magic is amazing in my opinion. It's a sparking counter, so basically if you have 5 cards in your drop area, you can take a life and activate it. The good thing about Gohan is he can awaken early and maintain a high life total, so you can use your energy as another resource, or your life as another resource rather. But the reason I like Time Magic is because it stops dual attackers from standing up. So right now in the meta, there's a lot of cards that can either restand and swing again if they meet X condition, or they're just straight up dual attackers. So, being able to stop multiple swings off of a huge battle card is nice. So I like Time Magic because it can just say, no, you're only going to swing once, I'm going to negate it, and you're not going to be able to restand and do more damage. So the next card is actually a tech choice that I decided to include in this deck. I feel at worst case scenario, it's Yellow Energy or a free 5k combo. This is a card from Assault of the Saiyans back in set 7. It's a 3-drop 20k blocker yellow future Trunks, essentially. He's 20k. He doesn't do much. You can evolve him over a yellow Trunks for 2 energy. Basically, what's nice about him is that he has an auto at the end of the turn. You can restand his card. if you swing with him offensively as a 20k at the end of your turn, he is going to be able to restand and give you that blocker ability on the follow-up for your opponent's next offensive step. I just like having multiple options. Also, it is a 3-drop future Trunks that you can go ahead and grab with the 1-drop. 100% of the time, you're going to want to grab the 3-drop future Trunks that we spoke about earlier with the barrier blocker. But sometimes if you don't have another target, it's nice to have at least something to go into. So I don't think he hurts the deck enough to where you would cut it, but I don't think he helps the deck enough also where he's going to be a superstar. I think it's just one of those flex spots that you have in every deck, and I felt like since this was in conjunction with what I'm trying to do, I can get multiple Trunks out and not have to worry about being unable to hit a target successfully. The next card is the 1-drop version of the 3 that we spoke about before. He's your basic, play for 1, look at the top 3, add a yellow say into your hand. It's really nice because you can actually search your other pieces. You can search your Gohans, you can search your 8-drop Trunkses, you can search your 1-drop Trunkses. You can search a lot of different cards in the deck, so he never feels dead. And being able to search your pieces for your follow-up plays is nice. He's a really good turn 1 if you're on the play because you really can't do anything offensively. So tapping 1 for him is nice because it's going to look at top 3 and maybe manipulate some stuff around there so you can get some better draws later on in the game. We're playing 2 Frieza Army reinforcements. These counter blockers are just really nice. I like it especially in this deck because yellow, like I said earlier, is primarily a defensive color. I wish that the blocker skill on the token would be able to awaken the leader, but it doesn't do that. But I like it because you can, if you're at 5 or more, if you're at 5 or less life, you can play this card without paying its energy cost, take a life, negate the attack, and then creates a 10k blocker token. So you're essentially dodging 2 attacks. But what I like about it is it helps you get from 5 to 4. Getting from 5 to 4 is really important because getting from 5 to 4 is what activates your super combos. So I like having an option. Obviously, if you're playing a more aggro style deck, you'd have just a 1-drop that takes a life and does X. But I feel like defensively, this is the counterpart to those cards because it's giving me essentially 2 negates because I'm stopping 1 attack and I'm creating a blocker for you to deal with. Whether you want to deal with it or not, that's up to you. But then you're leaving me a 10k token on the board. Not that's going to be able to do much, but it is something that I've had success with in testing, and the biggest part about it is getting down from 5 to 4. We are playing 2 Swift Retaliation Coolers. This is the bad ring for yellow essentially, so why not play it? There's plenty of times where you've established your 8-drop Trunks and you're going to go for the kill shot and your opponent decides to counter. You go ahead and play that cooler and it's just going to get you more value and be able to help you push through for that final damage. 2 Vegeta Unison of Fury. So this deck was 48 cards for the longest time and I couldn't think of what to put in the last 2 slots. So I'm not playing a Unison. I'm not playing any of those Vegeta Prideful Transformation counters. I'm not playing a rest heavy deck. Not playing Poutine, not playing Bergamo, not playing Zamasu. There is a version of this deck that exists with those types of cards, but for right now I wanted to focus on how efficiently I can awaken and how quickly I can get into my boss monster. Vegeta Unison of Fury, in my opinion, is just another finisher for the deck. He comes out, you can minimum 2 energy he has to come out for, but if you get him off later in the game and you already have a Trunks established on the board, you can go ahead and pay 4 for this guy, -3 him right away, and make him a 20k dual attack double striker in conjunction with your Trunks that's already on the board, and it's probably going to be a 35 double strike crit swing. So, essentially this deck does have a finisher, it does have a boss monster, it does have a win con, but having an alternative win con is nice, and being able to go ahead and just play him and just do X and just kill your opponent is really good in my opinion. We are playing 4 Bardock, Mind of the Resistance. This guy, in my opinion, this is the best card in the deck, simply because it's a turn 1 Awaken if you play it properly. So most of the time when I play this deck, I want to draw into I draw or I keep cards in my hand depending on my curve. So I know that turn 1, if I'm on the play, I want to play Trunks because it's going to look at cards for me and get me one to my hand if I might need it. But then I also have a backup. If I don't get to draw this Trunks and I just charge past and do nothing, now I'm pretty much open. Now you're not really gonna expect your opponent to do a 10k combo on a first turn swing, but what does that 10k combo do for me? It saves me some damage. So if they swing at me with 15k, I can combo out to 20, and it also gets me a yellow blocker on board for 1 energy. If that blocker was to so happen to block the next attack and get KO'd, I'm now awakened, and I'm awakening with 8 life, so I'm gonna draw 2 cards off of my life, draw 2 cards off of my deck. So I'm seeing 4 new cards. So essentially, I really like him because I feel like it gives you a good opportunity to try to awaken as quickly as possible. Offensively, if you're on the draw, I mean, charging an energy, swinging, comboing with an 8, making it a 20k swing, and then getting a 15k critical on board. You can use that offensively if you don't feel like your opponent's going to attack you, or you can go ahead and just sit back and wait and sit on your blocker. This deck has a lot of different options for your opponent to attack into. They can let you get out of hand, they can let your board size grow and get ridiculous, or they can go ahead and try to chop you down from the legs, which is then going to ultimately help you because they're ignoring your battle area. So it's a catch-22 for most people, but I really do like the card, and I think if you're playing Future Gohan, or if you're experimenting with Future Gohan and trying to get a solid build, I would start with 4 Hope of or Might of the Resistance, because it's just a really good card. And then a secret rare of choice for this deck. Honestly, this is a flex spot. This is all dependent on what cards you own, what cards you have, and what cards you feel like playing. This does not have to be a secret rare. I chose Sin because I have 12, I believe, 1-drops in this deck, and getting out a 30k blocker that can consistently restand for, less than 3 energy is incredible in my opinion. He just fits right in with the deck, and I feel like for me it's more important to have synergy with the deck than to have like the greatest skills in the world, because if you know exactly what you're doing and you know what your matchups are, you could probably have some success, and you'd be surprised at what the results of the outcome of the results would be. This could be your Gotenks SCR. This could be the new Sin Shenron SCR from set 13. You guys can go ahead and play with it, but this is the list I'm going to be focusing on for right now. I'm going to definitely test it this weekend at locals and see how we do, see where we go. But like I said, I definitely have other versions of this deck put together so that if I want to make any couple of changes, I know exactly what cards need to come out and what cards exactly need to go in. But let me know in the comment section down below what you think about this Future Gohan deck, as well as the archetype. Do you feel like it's a little weak? Do you feel like it's a little lackluster? Or do you feel like it's the most overpoweredly broken thing in the world that Bandai has ever released for us? And that's just my opinion. But yeah, let's open this up for discussion. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and please hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with everything. No counters, no combos. We really do appreciate the support, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Be there or be squared.